Hi everyone. Okay, I'm trying a whole new thing. This is very exciting because been having internet troubles and Wi-Fi troubles lately. Um, I'm not sure if it's the local service or what, but I'm trying a whole new thing, which someone suggested in the group, which is to plug the computer in to the Ethernet cable to get more consistent and higher quality video streaming. So hopefully that's going to happen. So this is an experiment to see if that's the case. And I hope you tell me. Okay, so today's video is on the Vijñāna-bhairava-tantra, verse 96. Slowly making progress through this text. And I'm going to paste that verse in the chat window so that you can see it. It's verse 96 and Yukti, or technique number 72 in my numbering of this sacred scripture, the Vijñāna-bhairava-tantra, which of course is the most famous scripture of Tantric Shaivism, but not actually the most important or anything, not as far as the original tradition is concerned anyway. But it's a lot more accessible than some of the other scriptures. So that's part of why we're going through it verse by verse, line by line, in the most complete and thorough analysis of the text so far in the English language. And I'm sure it'll be surpassed in another decade. Okay, so I'll read the verse and then we'll talk about the verse. Jhagitīcchāṃ samutpannām avalokya śamaṃ nayet yata eva samudbhūtā tatas tatraiva līyate. Which means, observing a desire suddenly arising, one should then lead it to quiescence, or lead it to stillness. And it will dissolve into the very place from which it arose. Okay, so this is an interesting practice that shortly after the composition of this scripture, a similar sort of practice appears in the spandakarikas, the stanzas on the pulsation of consciousness, or the innate vibrancy of consciousness. And in that text, this practice is referred to with the word unmesha. Unmesha, which means the blossoming or opening out or unfolding. And so there's this practice, here I'll spell that. There's this practice that's very important in classical tantra, classical non-dual tantra, of paying close attention in meditation to the question, where are thoughts actually coming from? And where do they dissolve to when they dissolve? Because it just seems like they come out of nowhere and they dissolve into nothing. But in fact, thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, they're all emerging out of what we call the ground of consciousness. You know, it goes by other names too. The pure, open void of awareness, you know. And so the point, though, is that you, by paying very close attention to the initial arising of each thought and the dissolution as well of each thought or desire or feeling, then you start to tune into the fundamental ground of your being, consciousness per se, that aspect of you which is ever present, and in some sense always the same. So here, though, I was just describing the practice of unmesha as found in the Spandakarikas, and here we have a slightly different version, because here you're supposed to just notice, take note when any desire or impulse spontaneously arises. And by the way, the word here is icha, so that can mean desire in normal Sanskrit usage, but it can also mean a kind of impulse or urge. So you just take note of an impulse, desire, or urge suddenly arising, and you observe it. You just stay with it, and you're not acting on it. And then you simply allow it to subside, right? You discover not every desire needs to be satiated. I can allow it to subside and see what that feels like. Now, that's usually how the practice is taught. And here in this verse, we have the phrase śamaṃ nayet, which implies more willfulness than simply allowing. It implies that you should lead the desire or impulse, lead it to stillness or quiescence. Now, this is not suggesting that that's what you should do with all desires. Not at all. It's saying, learn how to do this so you can do it when you want to. That's all it's saying. This is not, you guys should know, there's no demonization of desire in classical tantra. Desire is not bad or wrong, and it's not the problem, and it's not the cause of suffering. Our ignorance is the cause of suffering. Ignorance about our desire is a major cause of suffering, not the desire itself. So the verse doesn't connote any problem or like I say, demonization of desire. It's just that you as a tantric yogi need to be able to have the skill to lead desires into quiescence, meaning kind of dissolve them into stillness when you want to. That's all. It's just a skill to have in your toolbox. But also, you can begin to learn to notice where they dissolve into. They dissolve into your fundamental being, your awareness presence, we might say. Now, this phrase in Sanskrit, śamaṃ nayet, other translators have rendered it as put an end to the desire or snuff out the desire, because the phrase can mean that in other contexts. But we don't need to translate it that way. And indeed, I think that's too forceful, right? So nayet from the verb ni, to lead, lead it to śamaṃ. So that means stillness or peace or quiescence. It's related to the word shanti. So you're gently leading the desire into stillness. And it dissolves, the verse says, okay, so we got yata samudbhūtā tatraiva līyate. It dissolves into the very place from which it arose. And that's actually the main point of the verse, is to pay attention to that ground of being, that awareness presence from which these impulses or desires are arising and into which they are dissolving or returning. Yeah. So that's the practice. It's as simple as that. And in a sense, this verse is actually setting us up for the next couple of verses, which are going to expand on this theme. So I'm going to try to post those in a relatively timely manner. Now, for those who missed the beginning of the video, I was saying I've got a new setup here. And I've plugged the Ethernet cable in directly. So what I want you to tell me is the video better quality, more consistent, smoother audio, and so on. And if so, I'll carry on with with this setup. Okay, so as usual, the new Facebook Live software is not working so well, and it's not showing me who's live, which means they launched it prematurely in my view. Oh well. Anyway, that's the verse, and see you in the next video. Oh, just then 2 people popped up and said the video is good. Great. Good sign. Om.